All right, good afternoon. This is David O. Thank you for joining me once again here on WWDB 860 AM. We are here with four wonderful guests. They are so involved in our community. First, we'll be talking to a couple of representatives of the Salvation Army of Greater Philadelphia, Mission and Ministry. They are Captain Tawny, Cowen-Zanders, and Susan, Brotherton. And then we'll be talking to a woman who's recently featured in the Northeast Times, and her name is Carolyn Boxmeyer. She's running a program fairly much almost on her shoulders alone, but that's called St. Stephen's Quilt Project, and she has been involved in providing quilts for at-risk babies, mothers in need, and others all through this quilting that she does. And then we'll be talking to Ken Warner. I'm sure there's many people who know him because he's been at this for quite a long time with the Fox-Rok Athletic Association, Fox Chase Rockledge, where kids come first. It's a great program, great for the community. Not every section of our region has as great athletic association for youth and for kids. And let's learn how this works well and see if we can duplicate this. I want to just bring up that last week we had Cecilia Huesca, who was on our show because she was going to be the mistress of ceremony at our First Responders Appreciation Day. We held that on Friday of last week. Wonderful event, and she did a great job. And we had a couple of musicians on the show because they donated their time to entertain all the folks in our Appreciation Day. Serene and Salinas, they are PHL Live World Music finalists. And Kenty Love, Latin reggae musician, thanking them and everyone else who took time out to thank those who put themselves at risk for all of us. Now, you can check out that podcast or today's podcast by going to www.wwdbam.com and check out the programs in the Know with David O. And then you can find today's show, probably around 4 o'clock or so. The podcast will be available. Let me thank our show's sponsor, Weinerman Pain and Wellness, because without them we wouldn't have a show. They're located at the Land Title Building, 100 South Broad Street, Suite 1800. They're open 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and if you are in need of some excellent treatment for pain management, for rehabilitation, check them out. They do a wonderful job. Well, let me bring on my first set of guests, and that is Captain Tawny Cowen-Zanders, or Captain Tawny as she's called, because I guess a lot of names there. And she is the Divisional Secretary for Greater Philadelphia, where she is in charge of things like the administrative, the programs, and the ministry oversight of the Salvation Army of Greater Philadelphia. And along with her is the Director of Philadelphia Social Service Ministry, that is Susan Brotherton. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To be here.
Okay, so a lot of people have heard of the Salvation Army, and sometimes they're not exactly sure what the Salvation Army does. So could you tell us, what is the Salvation Army doing in 2019 to address the issues that it thinks is important?
Well, we do. We thank you for the opportunity to be here to share about the ministry that happens. There are various ministry expressions throughout the city of Philadelphia, depending upon the need, from shelter services to food to anti-human trafficking to working with intensive case management. Really, the Salvation Army's focus is, our mission is to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and to meet human needs in His name without discrimination, and that's what we do. And Susan's going to share a little bit about some specific programs that we do.
One of our newest endeavors is our Pathway of Hope program, where we engage with a small number of families, but work with them really intensely. Social workers engage and help families who are struggling, families who find themselves in crisis, who are coming to us for services, and we engage with them and we help them to set some goals, to get themselves back to school, to find work, to work as a family, to manage some of the everyday struggles that they're having. We help kids enroll in school and stay in school, in hopes that we can really address the cyclical nature of poverty.
Right, well, it's a lot to do, and I'm just looking at the fact that in addition to, the fantastic facility, the Ray and Joan Kroc Core Community Center in North Philadelphia, a 1,300 square foot facility, that there are 11 worship and service centers, 2 long-term emergency housing shelters, a permanent supportive housing site, 26 scattered sites, permanent supporting housing unit, 2 senior housing sites, an intensive anti-human trafficking program, including a drop-in center, shelter, and diversion activities, multiple education programs for children and adults, and an intensive case management program for families. That's a lot to offer.
Well, I sounded you made me feel very tired.
That's a lot.
We have
That's
a lot
yeah.
happening for
No,
sure.
but that's great, and I think a lot of people don't know that you do all of this.
No, I think that often they think of us at Christmas time.
That's what I think
Yeah,
of.
absolutely. They think of the bell ringing, but what they don't realize is that when they give their change, that a lot of change happens from that. And that we want to be holistic in our services, and so we kind of start from the cradle right on up, because there are a lot of needs here in Philadelphia, and we want to be able to be a part of helping.
What has been one of the things, or what has kind of gotten your attention the most that in terms of needs in Philadelphia?
I would say definitely our work within the anti-human trafficking.
Yeah, and where is that arising from? Is that from the sort of drug addiction, the poverty? How do you see that occurring now and taking up so much space in terms of the problems that you have to handle?
I think traditionally, folks have been trafficked, and that mostly has related to poverty and the vulnerabilities that are connected to living in poverty. But now with this opioid crisis, we're starting to see more people that are coming down to Kensington Avenue to get drugs, and many fall into being trafficked and being controlled by a pimp in order to maintain their addiction. This has been an initiative of the Salvation Army almost since its inception, so it's interesting that we can do this here in Philadelphia. But we have a drop-in center that serves anyone who identifies as female, who can come in, they can get a shower, they can get a change of clothes, a snack, and we have staff there that are willing to help people if they are ready to make a change. We believe in engaging in relationships and developing relationships with the women that we serve in hopes that they can see that there's a different way to live. So we have case managers down there as well that will provide some pretty intensive services. And from there, we also have a residence that's at an undisclosed location. So when someone's really ready to get out of the life and they feel they have the supports to do so, we have a housing program that we can support women as well. One of our other new initiatives down there on the avenue is that we're working with the Philadelphia Police Department, and we are doing pre-arrest diversion work. So when the cops, when Vice is out and they're picking up people engaged in prostitution, they'll bring folks to us. So we have a lot of resources that we can provide. We can have intensive case management, we can get people into treatment, we can house them and have them kind of connected to all of our core services.
Yeah, while they are breaking the law, it's not the best idea to stick them in prison. It's a good idea, if at all possible, to provide them services and alternatives and the opportunity, because they are victims themselves.
Absolutely.
And there is that kind of like, we get into a big area of disagreement and concern and all of this. However, I do think it is important to balance out two things, and I'm not saying that I'm right, I'm just saying, for your input, it's important, at least from my perspective, to deal with quality of life crimes. And here, I'll have a disagreement with our district attorney, Larry Krasner, in the sense that I know he's prioritizing and doing social justice, and I'm not saying he's wrong, I just say I disagree, that I think that quality of life crimes are things that cause people to want to leave their communities and neighborhoods. And and many times the people involved are people who need a lot of help. And so it's important to do that. But you are doing that by focusing on these type of issues that ultimately, as in human trafficking or as a result of being involved in drug addiction, people find themselves trapped in trying to get the money they need to sustain their habit. And then, other than being locked up and put in prison where they're also vulnerable, the police and the Salvation Army is working together to take them out of the community in a way that may help them in address the challenges that they have, and hopefully change their lives.
Absolutely.
And I would say that as well. One of our goals is to see them as the person, maybe not as who they are right now, but who they can be and who they were created to be. We as faith-based people believe that God created each person with a special purpose, and many of the individuals that we're dealing with, they've had circumstances imprinted onto their lives. The average age into prostitution is age 12. Well, we know that a 12-year-old didn't make that decision, and when you think about what a person has to do from 12, by the time you hit 15, 16, you've lived a whole lot of years, more so than your years, and they've almost forgotten who they are. And so when we build relationships with people, when we reach their lives, when we say to them, you are special regardless of what you've done or what has happened to you, when you help somebody believe in themselves, a miracle happens. And what happens is that they start taking control. And so we can't judge where they've been, but what we can do is we can love them and we can let them know, because trust is a huge issue. Because as people are moved into the life, it starts with trust. Nobody ends up you don't go in looking and the pimp doesn't treat you the way that the pimp has a way of getting you in the lifestyle, and so there's a trust issue. And so we want them, they have to relearn how to trust, and that they can trust us, and they may come back time and time again, but we are a safe place that will love them for who they are and for who they were created to be.
Let me ask you this, because it is faith-based, and you're talking about the story of God's love and the sacrifice of His Son, Jesus Christ, and you say so. You just say so. We're social services, but we're faith-based, and this is how we're approaching. And that has a way of reaching people. Maybe not everybody, but a way of reaching people. At the same time, you're wearing a uniform that makes you look like the Army or the police. And so how do you mesh those two things on the street?
I can tell you that people know the Salvation Army, that this uniform,
they see the uniform as a good thing.
Absolutely. They know when they see this uniform that they are going to be loved and that they are going to be cared for. So I have never had somebody run from me. I've never made somebody scared. In fact, I think it opens up far more doors than it doesn't, because there is something that is associated with this uniform, and that's love and peace and hope and joy.
So the uniform demonstrates a commitment to a discipline, I said commitment, but really it's really a dedication, a commitment to service, to the mission, to the ministry.
It's a calling. I'm appointed here. I didn't apply for the job. When I chose to become a Salvation Army officer, I said that I'll go and serve, and I'm a servant. That's what I am. And whether it's down on K&A and loving people, whether it's and anywhere, I am a servant to people.
Now, you're an ordained minister. Does everyone have to be ordained to be in the Salvation Army?
No. So Susan is not. You can be to be an officer.
Yes.
You are an ordained minister.
Mm.
I can perform marriages. I can funerals. I say I can marry you. I can even christen you. I'm not christen you, but I can even
Salvation Army humor.
Exactly. Marry you and bury you. Everything in between. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
But we have many dedicated employees who come
Yes.
alongside of us, and so say, your uniform might be nice. They might want to wear something a little different than this,
Right,
and
right.
that's okay. And truly, we couldn't be who we are without the ministry partners who come alongside of us and hold us up. And that's, I think, the beauty of it, that you can come from many different backgrounds, but we just ask that you want to serve and that you want to love people.
Wow. Now let me ask Susan, because she is the director of Philadelphia Social Services Ministry. That's a mouthful right there when I think about all the challenges and issue our city has in its darkest corners. What is your challenge?
Wow. What I think is really interesting about Philadelphia is I've watched how the city has grown so much, but we still have this core of people who are so poor and living in such horrific poverty.
Yes.
And I think the one challenge is how we as service providers can provide trauma-informed services to
Yes.
those, and to make sure that we really are meeting people where they are, and that we're providing accurate kinds of services, and that really are user-friendly. We don't want to kind of set up a service model that makes it so hard for people to get what they need. So I think understanding just the historical trauma within our city.
Right. So what you just said, trauma-informed, recognizing, just the damage that has been done, what people are going through. How does the Salvation Army put its special kind of delivery, being that, it's the Salvation Army organization with a faith-based effort?
I think I can give a good example from our anti-human trafficking program.
Yes.
So I mentioned we provide case management services, and what's really unique about those services is that we call ourselves victim-centered. So we understand what's happened to people before they've been trafficked, what's happened to people during the time that they've been trafficked, and oftentimes our systems really can re-traumatize people, or really can kind of recapitulate the pimp if you look at what some of our legal services and the hoops that people need to jump through in order to get what they need. And I think since we have that kind of awareness at the Salvation Army, that we can address their needs in a different way. And we don't discharge our clients. We understand that people will relapse, they'll go back into the life, they may start using again, but we're still here. We have a hotline that people can continue to call us. It's staffed 24/7, and we have social workers who will answer those calls. And if it's someone that lost contact with us 6 months ago, we remember them and we can re-engage with them. So I think that's the unique part of the Salvation Army. We don't say 3 strikes you're out, or you missed too many appointments and you can't come. We just don't do that. We continue to love people and offer our services.
One of the challenges for people, as you just talked about, someone who might have started a life of prostitution at 12, and by the age of 21, every time they sober up, they begin to remember and deal with all the things that they've done. And in your delivery of social services with a faith-based perspective, what is it that you try to communicate to these folks so they don't go back to self-medicating?
Self-worth. Really, that you are a worthwhile human being. The miracles that happen in the drop-in center, and that is really just for people identifying as female. So it's women supporting women, and we have a lovely crew of volunteers. A lot have come from Enon Tabernacle Church.
Sure.
We have a wonderful partnership with them.
Yep.
And just to see women coming together and supporting one another, and that's where the miracles happen. That's when people can remember, oh, I did have things that I was interested in doing. I did have goals in my life. I wanted to do something else. And being around these other women to support them to make a difference.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we could keep talking for a long time. Unfortunately, our time is out, but I want our listeners to know how to get in touch with you and how to follow up if they want to maybe contribute or get involved or support. What's the best way to do that?
Well, you can certainly go to our website, www.phillysalvationarmy.org, and go on there and you can see all of the various programs that we offer. There's something that really will make, what I like to say is something that will make your heart sing, that will connect to you.
Okay.
And we have our donation on there. Of course, we're on Facebook as well, and Twitter, and we would love to have the community come alongside of us and partner and help us to bring hope and love to individuals throughout our community.
Wow, that's fantastic, and thank you for all your great work. I will ask our listeners, stay tuned, because we'll be coming back with another incredible story of love, this time through. All right, we are back. We were just talking with two representatives from the Salvation Army of Greater Philadelphia, Captain Tawny, Cowen-Zanders, and Susan Brotherton. Boy, what a job they're doing. Great job, and some really tough issues. But another person who is having a great impact in a different kind of way is Carolyn Boxmeyer. And what she does is she, makes quilts, and she does it as a volunteer, and she delivers quilts. And, she started making quilts for babies at risk and the mothers who needed them. And long after the program she joined ended, she's continued. Now with St. Stephen's Quilt Project. Carolyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and it's great to finally get to meet you.
Oh, hey, it's my pleasure.
I did vote for you,
Did you?
I did.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So let me ask you this, because you were recently featured in the Northeast Times, and they did a story about you. And you have kind of continued something that you started. What got you involved in these quilts in the first place?
Well, I wasn't into sewing. I did some knitting, and I had a baby, and then I read an article about babies in need, and an organization called ABC Quilts, which was started in New Hampshire by two women who began by making quilts for babies who were born to AIDS-affected mothers.
Yes.
And lived their short, sick lives in the Boston General or Hospital for Children.
Yes.
And I wanted to be a part of that. And they started in 1988. In 1991, I asked them if they could use some knitted blankets. And they said, oh yes, but why don't you try being area coordinator? And that job involves collecting quilts that other people make, because I really don't make any quilts now. I made a couple in my time, but mostly I collect them from other people, and I check them for pins. I check them that they're secure enough to go out. If they're dirty, I wash them. I collect them and size them, sort them and size them, and give them out to as many as 68 different organizations.
Wow,
in my heyday, I was giving out 2,000 to 2,500 quilts a year. And most of my work, and it's a lot of work, a lot of sewing, with the quilts that would come in that didn't have enough stitches in them, and I would have to run them through the machine and run a line, usually a line around the edge. So what I do is my job is to sort of recruit people to make the quilts, and also to find the places, the recipient organizations, to accept the quilts. And the quilts don't just go out to babies now, they go to at-risk infants and children, and even older people.
Yes.
I give out to places like the Mazzoni Center, Action AIDS, Einstein Hospital, Blessed Margaret of Castello, which is a home for girls that are pregnant and in trouble. My sister's place is a place in West Philadelphia that houses women and children. St. Christopher's Hospital for Children, Temple. I just shipped some to A.I. DuPont Hospital for Children, Episcopal Community Service. I could go on, okay?
Right. A lot of places, but the variety of it. And I just keep thinking to myself, well, a lot of places have blankets, but you're delivering quilts.
Oh, this is something very special. This is handmade.
Yep.
This is a gift that goes to the child, or in the case of the Dolphin Project that's run by Episcopal Community Services.
Yes.
Goes to an older person who has no one, and they connect the people with a volunteer who visits that person, and that person gets a quilt of their very own. These quilts go not to the organizations that take care of the children, but they go to that child. Each child gets a quilt. Foster care children, sick children, drug affected, alcohol affected, there are so many. And the reason for this is also a religious one, like the Salvation Army
Yes.
people. And I have a verse that's my verse from Ephesians. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. I'm just doing my job here. I'm walking in the good works that the Lord gave me to do.
So you have a knack and a love of quilts and collecting them and distributing them, and you turned it into something really very meaningful.
Yes, many people enjoy making the quilts. And when I first got involved in this project, I was a knitter. I didn't even have a sewing machine. Oh my goodness. And I realized I needed one pretty quick. And I've had many sewing machines donated to me, and I had as many as 7 at one time. I would take them on the road and I would speak to school groups and church groups, and sometimes have a hands-on training session. But my room got a little bit small, so I only have one machine. But I've given out at least a dozen machines in the last 6 years to people that actually needed them, in some cases to make a living. But I have people as far away as New Britain. Burn Fabrics in New Britain has an organization, a group of ladies called Comfort Quilts. And they make quilts for me by the hundreds, but they also make other things for other groups. And so church people make them for me, school groups, individuals, and that's how I get the quilts to give out.
Yes.
And it's very precious. It's not medicine to make a person get well, but it's just something, and we usually put words of comfort on there, like love and comfort to you, and the person should sign their name for every quilt. And it's saying there's somebody out there that you don't even know that cares about you.
Which is a powerful message in and of itself.
Yes.
And you know, when I think of quilts, and I might be wrong about this, but I think like quilts, they're not like kind of like bricks in a wall. Like so many times the quilts are unique and different, and there's like a different fabric, a different pattern, a different, you know, kind of message. And so it seems more like a personal thing that people are getting.
Yes, it is. It's very individual. And some of my recipient organizations say that they enjoy getting the boxes of quilts, and they look over the different quilts and they fight over who's going to get what for whom. They try to match the quilts up with the child.
It takes some and you challenged me before we started the show. You said, I challenge you to do as good as a job on a quilt that this gentleman had done.
Yes, I had a man who knitted blankets.
Well, the first thing I said, I don't have the patience. And so one of the things is the time and consistency and devotion it takes to make one of these things. And that's what makes it special, because when someone gets one of these things, they know, like, it took someone some real time and effort to make this unique physical thing that you know gives me warmth and comfort.
Yes, they do. And I've had handwritten letters that made their way to me. I respect the confidentiality of all the organizations that get the quilts. I never ask about children or the adults that receive the quilts. I don't ask for names or ages or what their particular problems are in life, but from time to time the mothers will insist on getting a thank you note to me, and it's lovely. But I don't do it for that. So I don't get to see the people that get the quilts very rarely.
Now, is there a interest out there in making quilts? Because I remember, like, when I was a kid back in the day, there was knitting, and there was, people like to sew and embroider, but I don't know if that's still going on.
It is somewhat. Schools don't have traditional home economics classes anymore, but some more forward-thinking schools do teach their kids how to sew, because, I mean, if you lose a button off of your favorite shirt, shouldn't you know how to put it on and not just throw the shirt away?
Right.
I mean, that just that kills me.
But you also talked about, you know, the sewing, the knitting, as mindfulness, calming.
Yes. Oh, yes. The knitting for me. I knit if I'm on a train somewhere or if I'm watching TV, because I can't just sit. I have to do something, and it's something to do to knit. And I because I'm in this project and I want people to make things,
Right.
I'm willing to teach anyone that'll come to me, and if they want to learn how to sew, I could teach them about basic sewing. I never learned how to sew well. I sew to repair other people's work, but I knit and crochet, and I have simple patterns. People that know how to do this stuff, even the basic, very basic work, they can contribute to this project.
Yeah.
I have one woman in Ambler who's made for me over 2,000 quilts.
Wow, that's a
And
lot.
she just enjoys doing it. And you don't have to do that. You can make one. I've had many people that just made one
Right.
or two, and every single one, it comes together. I put them together, the count builds up, and I'm able to give them out by the dozens and the hundreds.
Yeah, I think in today's world where everything is so fast and quick and nobody's got time for anything and mass produced, the idea
Yes.
of getting something handmade that takes time, you know, that effort has been put, patience has been put into, is a very charming and desirable idea.
It's very special. More people should do it. I think everybody should be doing something for somebody else where they don't expect payment. Everybody can volunteer. Even the busiest person could do a little something, and the people that are truly busy, they can donate money.
Yes.
But I think we're put in this world not just to survive and provide for our families, but we're put in this world to do just a little bit for other people. And
Yes.
you know, this project fills that need
Yes.
because it's easy. I think it's easy to knit something, and they can do hats and booties. They're little and
But-
not make a big
But you are
blanket.
making a sacrifice. You are, and you may not kind of look at yourself as making it, but it is a sacrifice. You have devoted yourself to this, and you know, and so it is important to let our listeners know that there's ways to contribute and to help and to get involved and to encourage you to keep doing the good work. How can they do that?
Well, they could contact me. I am on Facebook. People could message me. The St. Stephen's Quilt Project is on there, but just my name, Carolyn Boxmeyer, and on Facebook. And I also have an email, carolynboxmeyer@hotmail.com. And
Okay.
people could contact me, and we can get together. I can show them what I do. I'm housed at the St. Stephen's United Church of Christ, which is on Princeton Avenue in Mayfair, and I have a room there. And people who sew usually have their own machine, and oftentimes I'll have someone bring their machine, and we'll work together.
Right, right. And you go out, for example, if a school were to invite you to come in and talk to a class? or-
Absolutely. I spoke to Lincoln High School. I spoke to Garnet Valley High School. Part of what I do is education, and I try to educate the kids that I speak to
Right.
against risky behavior.
Yes.
There's risky behavior that they engage in that could cause them to pick up the AIDS virus. It could cause them to become addicted to something and get very sick and ruin their lives. And so part of what our organization always did was education. And I speak to church groups and social groups, and
That's wonderful.
I just haven't had any, I've been taking care of my mother full time, and I really haven't had much time to do these things. But since I quit some of my jobs, I have a little more time actually to grow the project and maybe to go out and do some speaking engagements.
Okay.
As long as people don't mind, I have to drag my mom with me.
All right. Well, listen, to reach out to Carolyn Boxmeyer, it's CarolynBoxmeyer, and she will be happy to be engaged with you and to get you involved. And listen, we're going to continue this because we have another gentleman who has devoted himself to making other people happy, kids and youth. He might be laughing because he's a coach, and you know how coaches make people happy. But anyway, his name is Ken Warner, and he's on the board of directors at Fox-Rok Athletic Association, where he's been there for more than 30 years, on the board for more than 20 years. They call him the face of Fox-Rok. So let's stay tuned, and we'll talk to Ken Warner right after this commercial. All right, we're back. We're talking to Carolyn Boxmeyer, St. Stephen's Quilt Project, and before that, Captain Tawny Cowen-Zanders, who's in Brotherton, from the Salvation Army of Greater Philadelphia. Well, moving right along, Fox-Rok Athletic Association, maybe the biggest in this area, I think. I'm not sure, but really a great one. And it's up in Fox Chase, Rockledge area. And joining us now is a gentleman who is a board member, been a board member a long time, was for 13 years, he was a coach, he's the website administrator, and represents the organization in dealing with the political and business community, and so many other things. He's known as the face of the Fox-Rok AA, Athletic Association. He is Ken Warner. Ken, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, okay, well listen, I am just impressed with Fox-Rok. You know, just what a great opportunity for young people to get involved in sports, to learn, you know, properly how to play the games, to have the discipline, and then to grow from there. And unfortunately, I'm a at-large councilperson, and I'm sure of our surrounding counties. You know, not every section of our region, of our city, has got these great programs, and this one has been going on for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the program all starts with the volunteers.
Yes.
Our organization, we have nobody's receiving a salary nor a stipend. Everybody does it for making a positive difference for a child. At least that's my drive. And you know, we've been in existence for 68 years, since 1951. We're a nonprofit, community-based.
Mathematics got.
Well, we're a nonprofit, community-based volunteer organization.
Yep.
The purpose of our organization is to offer a fun experience and athletic activities for boys and girls of our community. We offer programs in baseball, softball, basketball, both summer and winter, flag football, tackle football, and cheerleading for ages 5 through 18. Our programs are designed to promote athletic achievement and instill good sportsmanship along with adult supervision, with the goal of better preparing the children for adulthood.
Right.
And that's our charter.
And it's your mission, right? Where kids come first.
That's right. The Fox-Rok Athletic Association is committed to providing organized athletic programs for the benefit of the children's community. And the goal of the association is to promote the children's involvement, social skill development, and athletic achievement in an atmosphere of good sportsmanship as we help prepare the children for adulthood. The decisions of the association shall focus on providing what is in the best interest of the children of the community. The principles and the philosophies shall be guided by the association's motto, where kids come first.
Wow. Now, how many kids are involved, let's say this year right now?
We have, it varies, all right, from year to year, and we typically have anywhere between 1,300 and 1,500 participants.
Wow,
that's sports all throughout the whole year.
Yeah.
All right, and I do have a breakdown if you have an interest.
Yeah,
okay,
tell me.
You know, in terms of baseball, softball, this past season that ended August 1st,
Yep.
we had 534 players,
Wow.
of which there was 130 female players.
Oh, that's great.
All right, so there's approximately 48 ball teams, and they're broken up into the younger kids, like 5 years old, t-ball. Then you have coach pitch, and then you have coach pitch, and then after that it's from 8 to 10, and then that becomes kid pitch ball. And these are teams that play each other. All right, and then after 10, you're at 11 years old up to 18. Then you just move up into the larger fields, and we play with outside leagues at that time.
Right. So these kids, if they start like 5, they're pretty good by that time they.
Well, you know what? Here's another thing. Some people, you know, they move into the neighborhood. Child's never played ball before, and they said, my child's 11 years old, never played ball. It's like, that's okay, you know.
Right.
You know, bring your child over, because we have the program set up so that if you are not, say, an A player, all right, you're more of a B player just starting out, all right, we have a league for that. It's we have it's called Northeast Peanut League, and it's run by a fellow by the name of Frank Spataco, who works for the city of Philadelphia. He's celebrating 40 years this year.
That's great.
All right, so you know we have programs, and if a child has some kind of disabilities, all right, we can send them to the champions. All right, there's another group that's run by a fellow by the name of Matt McDonald. All right, that will handle children with disabilities. Okay, so
something for every child to have a good time, enjoy themselves, and get all the values that you talked about at a way that they can really benefit from and enjoy.
Well, that's what it's supposed to be about, okay? You shouldn't have to, you never want to criticize the child like, Johnny, you didn't do that right, you know?
Exactly.
I mean, it should be a positive experience, all right? So you want them to come back later in life and, you know.
I'm laughing because you think about like the angry parents fist fighting at the.
No, that's football. That's football. All right, apparently the rules are
a little different, huh?
I think so, a little different. We had a tremendous football flag program. We just restarted it this year. Of course, because we have to have volunteers. We had 166 players playing flag football, and these are little tiny kids. Now, you know, the idea is if you get them into flag football, you know, maybe they'll like it and want to play tackle football. All right. We have football going on right now. I think the registration, it's like a little iffy at the moment because I think we have to turn our numbers into the leagues. Okay. But if somebody wants to play football, they ought to go on our website, www.foxrokaa.com.
There you have it. You can find out a lot more details. You're right at the website. Well, let me ask you this. All of this is really fantastic. How do you think, and I know you said it's about the volunteers, but it's got to be a little more than that, because there's a lot of people who volunteer and yet it doesn't sustain. Let's say someone volunteered and they were great, but then for whatever reason they moved away or they got older or whatever it is. But 68 years of continuous service, what do you think has been the foundation in that?
Well, we try to network with people, okay? When we see a parent being enthusiastic at a game, all right, it's how we got sucked into doing it originally. All right, it's like, you know, would you like to help out? And it's like, well, I don't have any coaching experience. And it's like, well, no, you can, you know, help out and be an assistant, and, you know, and then it grows from there. And then, you know, maybe they catch the love. You know, and they continue on with that.
That's a great way, because I would think the same thing. Like, I like to help out. Listen, honestly, I can't help out anymore. Like, I used to do, believe it or not, I used to do like free martial arts classes, like all over the city. Since I've been a council person, like I do a lot of stuff, but I can't do a lot of these things. But I would love to help out, except I have no real abilities. And what you just said is like, hey, listen, you don't need abilities. Like, help in different ways and kind of learn. Like, if you want to eventually be like helping out, like with an assistant coach or an assistant, you know, those things are open for you.
Right, we'll teach it. All right, you know, we just show up. Okay,
listen, that's great.
You know, as some of the guys say, it's just volunteer 2 hours a week. You know?
Yeah, I mean, look, listen, I am envious of those dads out there who are the coaches, and all the kids look up to them and they know what they're doing, and you're like, wow, that's great. You know, I envy that dad.
Well, we have all walks of life, you know, that that help out. I
Yeah.
mean, we have doctors, we have tradesmen, you know, electricians,
Right.
plumbers, and I mean, we have attorneys,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, everybody, you know, some people are more enthusiastic than other people.
Mm.
All right, but again, it's all about the volunteers, and to find a volunteer is, if the organization grows, then that becomes a difficulty.
Yeah.
All right, to find a volunteer, and then you need strong people in the right places, because you know, when you get into areas where the football team we have football teams that end up winning championships and going to Florida for a nationwide championship. So you do need strong volunteers, okay, who
you gotta
are a
raise
little
some money,
savvy.
too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, this just doesn't happen all by itself, all right? To give you an idea, our organization, and I'll go out on a limb and say we're probably the largest youth sports organization in the city of Philadelphia, and I'll base that on our player count being anywhere between 1,300 and 1,500. But our budget, our annual budget, is typically $190,000 a year. All right, so now to make it to be affordable, you know, we always seek sponsors, and the sponsors would be, you know, we would have a pizza place put on the back of the jersey, and these would be for the children that would be 10 and younger. All right, these are our in-house, our travel, they have different kinds of uniforms.
How much does it cost to be a sponsor?
$250.
That's not much at all.
Well, you know, we'll put so-and-so pizza place on the back with a phone number, and maybe somebody orders a pizza at the game.
True.
But I mean, we do that. I mean, we have politicians, okay, that put, you know, we'll put, you know, we'll put your name on the back of it, okay, in the note with David
my
O.
name out, you know. It's
We'll
got
put it
a
on the
few
back.
letters on it.
We can fit it. We'll change the font
listen,
size.
Hey, count me in, $250. I'm in.
Well, you can be there at the opening day for baseball. All right, we have a parade that goes from Rockledge into Philadelphia, where we play at the Fox Chase Recreation Center.
Right.
So we're right there at behind the Fox Chase Elementary School,
Okay.
and that would be at Ridgeway and Rowan Street, 7901 Ridgeway Street. But when our opening day ceremonies, we have the fire trucks leading the parade. We have the Cardinal
that's
Doherty
great.
alumni
Wow.
band, you know,
I'm
leading.
telling you, all the bells and whistles.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
and then all the politicians throw the first ball out. It's a great time, you know.
Oh, that's
But we're so big, all right, that we also occupy fields in Rockledge, all right, Rockledge, Pennsylvania, off of South Sylvania Street. So we have 2 baseball fields there, and now because of the growth, we also we play football at Lackman Playground, which is 4 miles north of Fox Chase Recreation Center, and that's located at 1101 Barlett Street. All right. All this information can be found on our website. It's very, very detailed. It talks about when the registration dates start. It tells you the age. It gives you, and if you have any questions, my email address is listed on the home page of the website, and there's a lot of contact information on there as well.
So what's the website again?
www.foxrokaa.com.
And also on Facebook. And this is Ken Warner, so if you want to contact him, you can find his information right there. Give him a ring, talk to him, shoot an email, and all of this stuff you get involved with, your kids involved with. And of course, listen, they got to raise some money, so you can participate. I'm sure they have wonderful events for fundraising as well.
Yes, we do. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Well, listen, everybody, it has been a pleasure today. We've heard about some, really some fantastic stuff in our community, from what the Salvation Army does to help people, to these lovely quilts that are being made, to the Fox-Rok Athletic Association. So tune in next week for another episode of In the Know with David O.